An entitled Kevin who works at Best Buy bans me from his store after I help a customer who asked me for help. And despite explaining that I wasn't trying to steal their customers away from them, they refused to listen and told me to get out. And I've never been more confused and annoyed in my life. Here's what happened. So this happened back in 2019 before stores were closing down due to COVID. And I believe it was around September. So in my area, there are 3 computer stores. And the one I went to was Best Buy. AMD and NVIDIA had just released some new products, so I wanted to get one. And while they were out, of course, I then felt a tap on my shoulder while I was in the store. It was a woman who was maybe 28 to 35 years old. She asked if I knew much about computers, and I told her that I do. It didn't occur to me that she thought I worked there, as I wasn't wearing the uniform. She gave me a piece of paper that was a parts list, and said it was for a gaming computer that her brother was gonna build for her son. And what a parts list it was. It was so horrible. She had so much incompatible hardware as well as many other things that just didn't make sense. And this guy was absolutely ripping her off. He was apparently going to charge $2,500 for a $900 computer on the high end. I explained to her my concerns and pulled up references, just so she did not think I was trying to pull one over on her. Again, she didn't know I was a customer too at the time. So I went into work mode and I started my questions. And unlike other Karens I've experienced in my life, she knew what her kid wanted. And it made things easy considering the parts that were available. I gave her the list back with my edits to it, which was roughly about $1,500 at the time. I told her if she takes it to the guy at the desk, he would help her out. She then said, "Oh, I thought you might have the keys." And that's when I realized she thought I worked there. So I had to explain to her that I did not. She laughed about it and then asked if I would be willing to build it since it seems like her brother was going to just rip her off. So I told her sure. She said that she was willing to pay what she was going to pay her brother. I told her no, I do this as a business and I don't charge over $100 per build, so she would end up saving around what the PC would have costed her. Well, right at that time, an entitled Kevin of the store appeared after hearing that last part. He got up in my face, and I mean a few inches before he was gonna kiss my cheek. That's how close he was. He started telling me I am not allowed to steal customers. Now, I've worked retail and convenience store at a manager level. I know the rules on stealing sales from a location, and I was not doing anything intentionally as she asked me for help and not the other way around. She tried to explain on my behalf what happened, but he did not care and said that I need to leave and that he'd be happy to help her out. Now, Best Buy doesn't work on commissions, so it wasn't that, but instead it was just a jerk move to do, as I wasn't there to try and poach customers. She told him no and to get the manager. So eventually the manager was called and she let loose her grievances. Now, I stayed back because if I butted in, it could have made this thing look a lot worse since it looked like I broke the rules in some kind of way. Well, the manager was on the employee's side, of course. He even went as far as to ban me from the store. Yes, I was banned from Best Buy for something I didn't do, as this was asked of me and not me asking her. She was mad now and told the manager that she wouldn't be back anymore and will tell people how they really treat customers. Mind you, I've had many random people who just fall into my lap with PC questions. I don't do this door-to-door salesmanship looking for people. I have them go to my online site, but that is usually it besides phone calls. I even told the manager that I have a business that uses his store to buy parts if the Rainforest site is out of stock. Well, he didn't care, because in his eyes, I was trying to steal a customer. Well, this entitled Kevin looked smug like he won. But what did he win? Why the smirk on his face when he literally just lost 2 customers that were about to spend $3,000+ that day alone? And if they weren't out of stock, I absolutely would have spent that money. Well, we left, and I did indeed build a computer for her, but I gave her a keyboard and a mouse pad, since the kid didn't have anything but an old keyboard, and I mean old. I set down the tower on the desk and even did some wire management for tripping safety. The kid was in school, and she wanted to do a surprise video of him walking in to see it. And all is well that ends well, I guess. I still don't go to that store, but she ended up paying me $300 for the build. I did try to refuse, but she wanted me to have it as an apology for the store incident. Their family has kept in contact ever since because her husband is a huge anime nerd just like me. The entitled Kevin of this story was completely out of line. There is no reason for them to ban this guy from the store simply because he was answering somebody's PC questions. Like, that is absolutely overboard. That is so uncalled for. And yeah, they lost a sale. It's not like you were going there intentionally to try and pick up customers. Like, you didn't go there with that specific intention. You were just going there to try and get some equipment that you thought that they had. I mean, talk about just ruining it and just not knowing what you're doing. So honestly, at least you got a good customer out of it, and hopefully that pays off in the end. Because that store is definitely being very dumb, and there's no reason that they should have treated you like that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. I've asked my partner to move out countless times, and at this point, I feel like our relationship is on the line, and I seriously don't know what to do. So I've been living with my partner for the past 2.5 years of the 4 years that we've been together. We were initially long distance, but decided to move in together after lockdown. We've lived in 2 flats so far, and since moving into our current flat, I have felt a drastic change in the atmosphere as well as the dynamic of our relationship. We have argued almost every day since living here, and 99% of the time, it's over petty domestic household issues that get blown way out of proportion. But now it's at the point where living together is becoming impossible. During the move-in process, I was in charge of organizing almost all the furniture that we needed, and I devoted a lot of time to an organizational system as well as a list of necessities for our flat and our pets. I was just trying to be responsible. I took a month off of having a job to get everything in order for the flat. Everything was spotless constantly. We never ran out of anything. The washing was kept on top, but despite feeling positive about the flat itself, my mental health was terrible, and I knew I needed a job. I managed to find a part-time job across the road, so I still had time for myself and home as well as being able to make a decent wage. My partner currently works full-time in a different city and rarely gets home before 6:00 p.m., but I explained once I started working again, he would need to start taking over his part of the responsibility of everything. It feels like a constant battle with him over this. He uses the excuse of having no time to finish the things that I ask him to do, but only sometimes works an extra day a week. It's not so much that he spends his days off doing nothing, but the jobs he does do are usually done halfway. For example, I sorted through a load of old junk that we had, threw away what I knew I could, and left him 2 carrier bags of random garbage to sort through. It was literally untouched for a week, and then I found everything back in the place that I had originally brought it from. I literally found a tube of unopened toothpaste shoved under the sofa. I also spent hours sorting through our clothes and separating the dirty washing from the clean clothes and a box to donate to charity. I came home yesterday to him saying that he'd sorted it all out, and it turns out that he mixed the dirty and clean clothes back together in all my drawers. Needless to say, I was very annoyed, but even more so as 2 hours prior, I had specifically told him not to touch the clothes as I would do it myself on my next day off, but he didn't listen, nor did he do the job right. Our pets are a massive part of my life too, and keeping on top of their food and water, as well as cleaning and everything else has always been my job. Even if he cleans the cage, I usually have to ask him to do it first. I make my own food mixes for them, and although he's been with me to the shop every time I've bought the supplies, he told me he didn't have a clue as to what they ate or what to buy. I mean, we've been giving them the same food for over 2 years now. Although those kinds of issues sound really minor and just really frustrating on a basic level, the way this has piled up on me has just been completely overwhelming. And on top of this, every time I try to rectify the issue, he turns it into a massively blown out of proportion argument, and we argue literally all night. I feel as though he thinks that I bring these problems up as a way of picking on him or something like that, but I'm literally doing it to function in my household. No matter what, I've always felt like I've devoted all I can to this relationship. Like we had already been through a lot of emotional things before this because he had been dishonest with me about a lot of stuff, and the thanks that I get for forgiving it all is living with someone who won't cooperate with me over really simple things. My overall deep down feeling is even if we're compatible as people, we are not compatible to live with each other. His habits drive me up the wall, and he's convinced I literally just hate him simply because I communicate problems to him. Every single time I've told him that it isn't working and that he should just move out, he either cries until I change my mind and says that he can't be without me, or bluntly tells me that things will be fixed by tomorrow and none of this will ever happen again. Well, after 4 years of experience of things not getting better, I don't know why he expects me to believe him. It's now to the point where I feel like I don't even get a choice as to whether we live together unless I move out. And as I said, I organize all the furniture and essential stuff that has ended up in our flat. His stuff would fit in 1 suitcase, whereas I would probably need 2 moving vans. And to add to the criticality of all of it, my dad has recently been in talks with us about helping us get a mortgage on our own house. The house would absolutely be in my name, and it terrifies me to think that things could literally be exactly the same there as they are here, except everything that he breaks and everything he does halfway and every argument that we will have will be on my property. I don't want the financial or emotional stress of trying to cooperate with him over such a massive investment. I'm honestly just not sure how to approach this situation now. I've felt at a dead end with him for so long, and I don't want to pretend like I'm happy or that things are fine for the sake of avoiding conflict and accidentally end up spending the rest of my life stuck in a relationship that is straight up not working. I love him as a human being. I think for the most part he has good intentions, but sometimes it feels more like having a teenage son, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. I would not buy a house with this guy. There's no way that needs to happen. He is literally showing you exactly who he is, and I think buying a house at this point is just not going to be a good idea for you. And you said it yourself, you've put a lot of work into this flat, and you've put a lot of work into your life and relationship. The least he could do is some kind of chore to try and help out around the house, because these actions are just completely unacceptable. He's being very irrational, and he's not being fair in the slightest. You do a lot of work just for him to sit around and not do anything. So hopefully this can be figured out, because honestly, I think moving out and having some distance might be a good idea, and hopefully you're able to get past his fake temper tantrums, as well as him claiming that things are gonna get better. Today, I messed up by using a noise machine to go to sleep, and as a result, my wife, who was locked out of the house, had to call the fire department and the police department just to try and wake me up and let her into the locked house. And in retrospect, I really do feel really stupid. Here's what happened. So my wife and I had been out all day doing things with our friends. Rock climbing, a birthday party, an engagement quiz night, stuff like that. I was exhausted and decided to go home while my wife stayed to finish up the quiz night that she was directing for her good friend's engagement. We conveniently live around the corner, so I said goodnight to everyone and told the wife I'd leave the door open because she had forgotten her set of keys at home. She said she felt uneasy about the door being unlocked, but I said it should be fine, as we've never had anyone try and come in unannounced before. I got home, I went upstairs, I turned on the noise machine, and I fell asleep. Eventually, I woke up to an unfamiliar voice telling me to wake up from the ground floor outside the bedroom window. I figured it must have been one of her friends walking her home. I walked downstairs in my boxers to open the door, which I apparently locked on instinct, and my wife just stares at me and angrily says, "Why didn't you pick up your phone?" It was dead and I hadn't charged it as I was just too exhausted. While I was wondering why she hadn't used the doorbell, I look behind her and I see a few policemen and some firefighters. I ask her curiously if she knows what was going on, and that's when she looks at me and goes off. She says, "I thought you were unresponsive or in trouble. You're the lightest sleeper in the world, but you didn't hear the doorbell. You didn't hear the metal music I blasted in the living room via the Bluetooth speaker, and you didn't hear me yelling your name with the window beside you. So I had to get the firefighters just to take a ladder and yell at you from the bedroom window on the second floor." Now, when she said this, I was shocked and confused. She then came inside, went to bed with me, and I cuddled her and apologized. The next morning, I went downstairs to try the doorbell and knock while she was in the bedroom with the noise machine on. And you know what? She couldn't hear any of it. Since then, we've put a few new measures in place to help prevent a similar situation in the future. We are now joking about it, but I think it will be a sore spot for quite a while. This is actually really funny if you think about it, because on your end, you probably had an amazing nap. You slept really well and you just didn't have any problems. But from your wife's perspective, she's probably furious, and she was angry enough to have to call the police, as well as getting the firefighters down there just to wake you up. And I think you hit the nose on the head. You can probably joke about it for now, but I think it really will be a sore spot for quite a while. She was locked out of her house, and no matter what she did, you would not wake up. And it's also really good that you guys now know that your doorbell, as well as knocking on the door while you're in the bedroom with the noise machine on, is not enough to alert you of anything that's going on. So I think in essence, you've at least discovered a security problem with your house that both of you are now prepared for. And if anything, considering all the trouble your wife had to go through, at least that could be some kind of silver lining. My boyfriend sent a slightly strange message to an old female friend claiming that we are engaged, despite the fact that we are not engaged and we never have been. And I'm seriously weirded out and I don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. We bought a house together a few months back, but other than making jokes about running off just to elope, getting married hasn't really been much of a conversation. But we obviously are very serious about the relationship as a whole. I mean, we did buy a house together after all. Now, I consider us to be very open and very honest. We tell each other everything. We don't go through each other's phones or anything like that. So, to be completely honest and transparent, I have no clue who he's messaging. And also, to be be honest, I don't really care. He moved to where we live a couple of years before we met from 1,500 miles away. He's told me all about his hometown friends, including the one he sent messages to. I've met a bunch of his friends, but not this friend in particular, who is the subject of this story. They've been friends since high school, but haven't really hung out consistently since they graduated, but would go through phases where they would hang out a bunch, and then phases where they barely saw each other. It was just a normal friendship kind of thing. He has seen her once since he moved here about 2 to 3 years ago. He did tell me that he made a pass at her once before about a decade ago, but she shut him down and that was that. They'll text like once a year, according to him, just to catch up about little things and that's it. But he did say that when he made a pass at her, it's because he always found her attractive and wanted to take his shot while she was single, and they haven't been single at the same time ever since. So now on to the messages. When she asked how he was doing, he said to her, "Great, finally bought a house and I'm engaged." She congratulated him and then made a joke about how she's single again and hates men at the moment. And he said to her, "Well, if I remember correctly, you were pretty good at sifting through the nice guys to choose the biggest jerks." And that was the end of the conversation. And I know what you're thinking. It's no big deal. And maybe I need to be told that I'm overthrowing, but I feel like he only said we're engaged just to try and make her jealous. And then he immediately pointed out with the next comment that she turned him down. Like, what was he doing? Was he trying to spark something and feel out the waters? Or am I completely overthinking this entire exchange? Why would he want her to be jealous if he is supposedly fine with her turning him down and happy being with me? I'm not sure why he would tell someone that we're engaged, because fun fact, we absolutely are not engaged. Also, for the record, I wasn't going through his phone. He asked me to go on his laptop to read a measurement he needed for something that he was installing into our house. He asked me to do these kinds of things for him quite a bit, and I must have forgotten that he had his Messenger tab open and the conversation was literally right there. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. And now I'm at a crossroads and I seriously don't know what to do. So there's two things that come to mind. First and foremost, it is incredibly weird that your boyfriend has said to somebody in the past that he really liked that he is engaged to you, especially when that is blatantly not the truth. You're not engaged. You did buy a house together and you do live together, but you're not engaged and ready to get married. That's not what's actively happening. So I think you questioning why he's doing this in such a way where he's lying about you guys being engaged just to seemingly make some girl jealous that he used to like that's really weird in my opinion. There's also the possibility that he might be proposing to you soon. Like maybe there's a situation where he's like telling people ahead of time, "Hey, me and my girlfriend are engaged," even though he hasn't proposed and you haven't said yes. In fact, even with that in mind, this is still really creepy. And in my opinion, this is definitely a red flag. So I think all in all, it is pretty fair to have some kind of conversation with him. And like you said, you didn't snoop through his stuff. You didn't look through his messages and try and figure out what's going on. He asked you to go on his laptop and his messages were just open at the time. It's not like your eyes can selectively choose what they do and don't see. But I think you just need to remember that yes, you have a good relationship, and no, you shouldn't come at this in an aggressive way. Just be casual and kind about it. Try and figure out what's going on and see where you stand as a couple, because you have a good thing going here. And from the sounds of it, I think you both can work through this and figure things out. My wife spends a lot of alone time with another man and refused to tell me about it until I confronted her. And now I am so blown away and I seriously don't know what to do. So as the title suggests, I am upset that my wife told another man to not tell me that they were hanging out. My wife and I have a mutual friend. He comes over multiple times a week and hangs out. Lately, my wife and he have been texting consistently every day and hanging out in person. They would watch TV together, they would go shopping, they would go on walks together with our baby, etc. I had an anxiety attack a few weeks back because she had told me that he is a good friend who's making her happy when I can't while she's alone at home and I'm working. And it made me feel that the relationship is compromised. She assured me that nothing was wrong, and I then started trying to do everything I can think of to try and fill any voids or deficiencies that I have contributed to in the relationship and reduce her loneliness, like coming home early from work or spending more time out of the house together with her. Anything I could think of. Fast forward to a few days ago, and I'm out and about and I FaceTimed her. She says she's busy and hangs up on me mid-sentence, and it honestly felt like she was trying to hide the fact that she was talking to me. I later get home and ask her how her day was and what she was up to, and she instantly gets defensive, wondering why I'm interrogating her. She then admits that she was hanging out with this friend. She picked him up and that she told him not to tell me that they were hanging out together because she knew how I would react. But she said this in such a way that felt like she was being super defensive or even guilty. I texted him earlier earlier, and he said he was at home, which means he followed what she asked him to do and continued the lie. I told her that I don't feel comfortable with this now, and that I don't want to have to get rid of her friend, but I don't think I can feel okay in a relationship like this. She responded with accusations that I don't trust her, and that I'm trying to take away her friend, and that if I was more present and a better partner, then she wouldn't feel the need to keep things from me because of how I react to them. I am so hurt by this, and I seriously don't know what to do. In my opinion, your wife is 100% in the wrong. She's basically blaming you for the relationship that she has with your friend. She's basically committing an emotional affair, and according to her, it's all your fault. She's very clearly trying to gaslight you and say, oh, if you had just been more available, I wouldn't have spent time with this guy behind your back, and I would have been able to be more honest about what's going on. No, if she was a better wife, she would have told this guy to get lost in the beginning. She clearly has compromised values, and she's trying to blame you for that. I'm personally all about people getting help for their mental health, and people should be responsible for taking those steps and trying to find solutions to their mental health problems. But for her to blame you in this way and basically say it's your fault that she spends all this time with this guy is completely unacceptable. And to top it all off, she told this mutual friend to lie for you. She literally lied to your face and told this guy to keep secret whatever relationship they have. And hopefully there's nothing else sketchy going on, if you know what I mean. So in my opinion, this is absolutely not your fault. They are clearly dating in some kind of way, and she's trying to hide something from you that probably is way more scandalous than you can possibly realize. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out in the description below and subscribe.